very pleasant good morning, good afternoon, good evening, magandang umaga, magandang tanghali, magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat, wherever you're located and whatever your time zone is. We'd like to welcome you to Crossfire and with something very exciting happening this afternoon. But first, I'd like to welcome Itos Valdes, Paglinawan. This is Rita Gadi. When we say that something exciting is happening, well, right now, I think on live television, BBC and whatever else network is covering, of course, all the networks of the world, the coronation of King Charles III anyway. So, but another exciting thing is our president is there. He just came from
United
5-day
States.
visit with the president of one of the most, if not the most powerful country in the world as of this date. And then, of course, the meeting that he had with the president, Joe Biden, several meetings subsequently. And then, of course, on the way, he also had just one very interesting conference with one of those think tanks. And I think that was where a lot of things which summarized his visit were actually revealed. So we'll talk about that. That's why our title for this program is Plus and Minus. In other words, what was gained, what was deducted, what was minus, what was added. Anyway, so on the plus side, I'd like to say that if you listen to all the speeches that he delivered, they were outstanding speeches, quite articulate, very articulate, as a matter of fact, not just quite, but also very well delivered. So there you have the words. And they say that if your words are such that it can create the nation that you want us to be, wow, that is really something. Plus, there were also other bonuses, the plus side. And one of the big things, actually, in all his trips was all of these investment pledges, all of those meetings that he've had in the past, and all of the countries and heads of government that he has talked with, businesses and so forth. Those are pluses. Now we're expecting, and he was quite excited over this, $1.3 billion investment funds from the United States of America. Okay, who will start? Ado, Professor Ado, yes. This is the plus side. I mean, you sit there and listen to him and you say, wow, ang galing talaga.
I wish I could squeeze blood out of a turnip.
Are you referring to me?
Because speeches are speeches and promises are supposed to be made, are not supposed to be broken and are to be made. We're seeing here the Philippine version of Zelensky making a performance across Washington, D.C. Zelensky, of course, now has a country in disarray, tremendously destroyed. And who knows, maybe 1 year from now, we also will be in the same predicament.
Oh, no.
Because as I see it, these performances are actually sleepwalking into something that might spark war in the South China Seas. So that is my reading of this visit. I wish I could be more positive, but I think other than investments, I have not heard anything about the economy that is concrete and that promises something in the next few months. That is my. I even doubt that the investments that are being promised will come to the Philippines. I have been assigned in Washington D.C. for 7 years, and most of what we accomplished in state visits and working visits, it would be good if at least half of them are fulfilled
But
by the host country.
yeah, just before he left, there were actually a lot of pronouncements already made by members of his cabinet that the investments that were pledged in several of his meetings abroad are already coming in. Yes, I think they made
In
statements
fact,
like this. Yeah.
if you noticed the meeting he had with the business sector, were mostly from the business sector that he brought to the United States. So these are not a good sign. No? He was accompanied by 10 oligarchs in his stable. And of course, he too is an oligarch, perhaps the first oligarchic president that we have. And so I don't know, you go to another country, you bring in your host, and then you make a good speech and you are applauded. So I don't know what kind of performance that would tantamount to.
Yeah.
But the reaction of the other people that were there in the forums, Ado, also acknowledged the fact that he was in tandem with many of the proposals that they also have and many of the avenues where they want to come in and help our country. So I think it works both ways. So anyway, Itos.
Yes, I will have to, you know, again, I think we've seen this many times over, no? Just to give a perspective, no? Each of those oligarchs na kasama ni Bongbong is worth a lot more than the promised aid that they're
If you
going to
put
give
it-
us.
If you summarize and put it all
Yes,
together.
yes, no, each of them are worth more than $1 billion, easily.
Easily.
So each of them, you have the Razon, you have Ayala, you have Ramon Ang, you have Alliance Global. All of them are worth more. You just look at their state assets and liabilities; they're worth more than that. So this is nothing. Again, perspective: they've already sent over $100 billion to Ukraine to continue a war. So that figure, if at all true, is really nothing. So, and actually, the pledges should be 10 times that to make a significant debt. But to Ado's point also, you know, when they say pledge, 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 where will they put the money and how is it coming in and how is it going to support our country? In what way?
That was specified, Itos. I think he mentioned many of those
course.
areas: agriculture,
Yes.
technology,
Yes,
etc. Yes.
in mother
Climate
statements,
change.
yes. Let's just put it in a one big pile and not
At
go
the
down
end
to
of the day,
detail.
it will not depend on the pledges.
Yeah.
We were pledged up to $14 billion in assistance by not only the US, but the European allies. And I think we were just able to absorb 2.7. The real question here is the absorptive capacity of the country.
Yes.
You know, for instance, I would say good job when it comes to the investment on solar energy. But that would only be tantamount to about 3 compared to China's 46. So they have to pledge more. Okay, we want to see more Americans coming into the Philippines.
They had specifics
yeah.
also. Solar, you mentioned solar, there's nuclear. They're also coming in with a number of
Of
little
course.
nuclear plants.
It's a lot of in these types of things. It's a lot of PR and a lot of no. Until it's there, then we'll see. But what about this? I think China would easily give times 100 more billions of dollars if he had gone there and done the same investment route. I think China is capable, and China's investments will not be in X amount of climate change, or China's investments will be real investment with infrastructure, bridges, roads, trains, everything.
Well, we've seen a couple of that already,
Yeah,
actually. You know,
so I think he, being the chief salesman of the Philippines, right, can wrangle some deals, especially now with China. And of course, we can say anything is good, but where does it benefit our people? If there's no, we have yet to see, for example, a direction in the agricultural sector. Are we building up our capacity to self-sustain? Is the investment going there to help us self-sustain later on? How about energy? In what is there a timeline, or is it Westinghouse selling us another plant, which we have to spend on, and what about those investments? Are they tied to EDCA?
Well, that's a good question
Right.
because we were a little worried before he left, before the president left. Most of the discussions we had prior to
Mm.
today on Crossfire was precisely where we are situated, walking on a tightrope, so to speak, or does he have on his right hand the United States of America, on his left the People's Republic of China, and is he actually centered?
Mm.
So again, we had statements also issued then, and he said, you mentioned something about mother statements, but I think this was rather direct when he said that no bases would be utilized for launching any offensive action against any country, and that these bases actually are useful
Mm.
to defend the Philippines should there be problems in Taiwan. That was not elaborated on,
Mm.
but he made such statements. So Ado was this morning with this forum that you had just about discussing exactly where we stand as far as the left and the right, or the
Taiwan.
United States and
Well,
America are
the
concerned.
United States has made an ironclad statement that they will assist the Filipinos in Taiwan should there be a violent confrontation in Taiwan.
Oh, so not
And that this is at the same time that the United States are not able to save their own people in Sudan, and the Chinese had to go there and save everybody else. There are mixed signals being sent here, and so it's confusing a lot of people.
Yeah, but if we go back historically, the way America moves into countries, we have seen that they have this template. They don't want the leader there, they don't want what's happening in that country, they go in. And then they leave the country in shambles. So we've
Well,
seen this, yeah.
that's what the U.S. is good for. The geopolitics of reciprocity, and they are perfect in prognosis and forward planning. So if they're not going to get anything in return, they will not give anything at all. On the other hand, if they are being compared to China, China is promoting among its four principles of foreign policy, geopolitics of amity and friendship. And so what do we have here? We are raising expectations despite all this, what's happening to this pivot of
The US.
Bongbong Marcos to the United States. China will just stand still. I don't know how to read the next years to come, because when Noy Aquino was hostile to China, the first thing that happened was when I looked at the map of the Belt and Road Initiative. The Belt and Road Initiative was not connected to the Philippines. Was not connected to the Philippines, number one. Number two, the number of tourists in the whole year of Noynoy Aquino's last year, which was 2015, was only 360,000. Compared to
This is
Duterte's 2019
Chinese tourists.
Chinese tourists in 2019 of 1.8 million. So there is some sort of chemistry going on when it comes to what comes in and what goes out, and who deserves what and what to expect. The
Speaking
third
of-
thing
yeah.
was that China, because of the hostility of Noynoy Aquino, sanctioned our banana and pineapple exports.
Yes.
So it's really relationship with China that is involved. If we are in good relations with China, then perhaps, as Itos is saying, we can ask for the sky.
Yes.
But if we are showing fangs and armor to the face of China, I don't know what would be forthcoming.
That all began, remember the tourist bus in Luneta?
The hostage.
Yeah, that hostage incident, my goodness. And then you had the president.
By the way, Rita,
Yeah.
before this trip, the Chinese embassy was complaining that all their calls to cabinet members in the Philippines were not being returned.
Wow. Wow.
So there seems to be a
Wow.
communication embargo until
After the trip.
after the trip.
Wow.
The next thing is no less than the tourism secretary, Secretary Frasco, is already panicking because her projection is 2 million tourists for 2023, and it's already the month of May.
Middle of
To
the
be
year.
able to generate this, our foreign offices, our consulates in China must be able to issue at least 6,000 visas a day. 6,000 visas a day to make 2 million tourists
To reach the
up
figure.
to
the
the end
target.
of December. The authorization is still at the pandemic level of 100 visas a day.
Oh my goodness.
So if this is not changed, or if this is intentional, you will not even see 100,000 Chinese tourists in the country this year. And that is miserable because for every one tourist, 2 jobs are created.
Agree.
And the 1.8 million tourists of 2019 generated almost $3 billion
Right.
in revenue.
But
Yeah.
President Jr. actually announced in Washington that he is dialoguing with China in the sense that a better kind of communication will be calibrated so that there will be a better understanding. He did mention this in one of his speeches. So when you say that what is happening, that they cannot, China is not able to contact our cabinet members, well, whatever it is, as the president also said at one time, maybe there's a problem in the translation. Remember when?
Yes. I'll put it this way, though. I think, who do you think is a better communicator? President Digong or Bongbong? So if President Digong can communicate effectively with China, then I don't think our president will have any sort of problems in terms of calibration or interpretation, is what I'm saying. So let's leave it at that.
Okay,
Okay, so
this is the
that-
plus and minus of
Yes,
diplomacy.
correct.
Actually, that's the way it goes.
Yeah, but that, obviously there is either an order or something hanging in the air, which China is not comfortable with. Now with the increase in the U.S. military in the area and with regard to Taiwan, it's more important to have back channels at this point. You cannot not respond to any effort by any country to communicate and give you a sense of, we can still talk about this even at the last moment.
Exactly, but
Yung isa gusto ng gera, yung isa ayaw. That's plain and simple. Now, where will you place yourselves again?
Where will you place itself again is in the Nikkei report covering the recent working visit to Washington, D.C. of our president. Joe Biden and President Marcos has this as seemingly joint policy. And all our problems in the future will come from the basic understanding or misunderstanding of this Nikkei Asia report. I will quote. In 2016, an international tribunal in Netherlands denied China's claims to historical rights within its self-proclaimed nine-dash line, which covered most of South China Sea. The U.S. supports the ruling and has provided assistance for the Philippines to exercise its rights in the EEC. I think this will be the guiding line of U.S.-Philippine relationships when it comes to the South China Sea. What you're saying is how China will precisely react to this is yet to be seen, because in the recent visit of the foreign minister that visited Bongbong Marcos before he left for the United States, no response was generated except that I will bring, these are important matters that I will bring to my home office. And so until then, China is also waiting what is happening or what has happened in Washington and then London and whatever else until he returns. But, you know, ladies and gentlemen, this statement is reeking of a terrible lie. This statement is reeking of lawfare based on disinformation. To start with, the Permanent Court of Arbitration was not an international tribunal. Neither is the PCA permanent
Right.
or a judicial court. The Philippines registered for a private voluntary arbitration there and which was not even arbitration because the process only involved one
One
party.
party, exactly.
So, what are they talking about here? The basic understanding or misunderstanding about it. There is adding insult to injury. It has to be said that only the Philippines defined the house rules of that process, paid for the use of the facilities, built on the principle facility, staff, and supplies of the Peace Palace where the proceedings were held. Only the Philippines selected the jurors, and only the Philippines paid for their honoraria. In short, nothing about the 2016 PCA registered ruling could be cast in stone. In the words of Duterte, that arbitral rulings award was only a piece of paper. So, if we are basing our relationship with the United States on the basis of that statement, then this is the very statement they keep on repeating since 2016.
16.
No? And they're still repeating that and will be the linchpin of their position in the South China Sea. That's why in the title of my new column, I said that our president might be sleepwalking onto war. You know, if he does not change his own understanding or his mind about having any kind of rights in the South China Sea that does not cross against the claims of China. That is my reading of
But that's
that
exactly
statement.
what the situation is, because we have known from the very start that that tribunal is just supposed to be a referee, but the other party, as you said, Ado, did not even join. So it is, and there's nobody that can execute that, not even the Philippines. Now, that's the way the United States of America operates. We have to take cognizance of this as part of the historical background of what has happened in so many other countries and the probability and the reality that is actually happening now with us. You know,
Or
yeah.
was the United States in the first place the mastermind
There you go.
of the arbitral
There you
ruling?
Exactly, yes.
And
yes.
was it their intention and only desire that something illegal about the nine dash line would be part of the ruling, even if UNCLOS itself,
Does not have
Huh?
that.
even if UNCLOS itself, in the words of, I didn't put it here, but, oh, let me look for it, and I will
Yeah,
go
but-
back
but-
to it later.
I just wanted to add, no, remember, this whole time, China had been reaching out to us and saying, let's talk about joint development. Let's look at everybody that has a claim on those islands, which is not just China and the Philippines, it's also Vietnam and these other countries. Sabi nila, oh, joint tayo, let's look, let's talk, let's confer. Pero tayo lang ang gusto ng China.
And government to government.
Yes, government to government, tayo lang. Tayo ayaw sumama doon na wala yung US. tayo sinasabi, hindi, kailangan kasama yung
Yun.
US.
That
So,
is what precisely
that is-
the US said, but the US supports the ruling and has provided
Yes,
assistance for the Philippines
so
to
we-
exercise its rights.
again, we
in
are
the
being
EEC.
used as the linchpin. We are
Yeah.
being used as the bait to war. Again, all of this time, you provoke China. You put yourself in a position where you will fight, and then once that fuse is lit, then we take over. And no matter what our president says, like I said in the past shows, no matter what our president says about EDCA bases being used offensively or defensively, he has no say once the war fires are lit. He has no say. If the US says, no, I want this, ano sasabihin niya? Hindi pwede. Titigilan ba niya?
That's the reason why we're discussing
Right,
this, so
correct.
that you could listen very carefully.
Mm.
This is not anything new.
Mm.
This has happened throughout the world over the years.
History.
This is, and it's not even so far back in history. It is actually within the past 70 years. Wala
Yes.
pang ang 1 century.
Yes, correct.
You've seen how America enters into a country
Mm.
because it does not like that country or its leader, using for an excuse that it is trying to save something or the other, and then devastates that country, destroys it, tries to get as much as it can, and then leaves it deteriorated completely.
Yeah.
See, that's the sad part about it. And we are discussing this precisely because our president has met with
Mm.
the supposedly most powerful country in the world, which is the United States of America. Mabuti na lang, sabi ko nga, nakakahangang-hanga yung presidente natin nakaupo, looking at Joe Biden eyeball to eyeball. At si Joe Biden naman nakayuko kasi may kodigo.
Mm.
He
Wala
had to
siya, no?
read. Yeah, he had
He
to
has no
read.
more.
But our president knew exactly what to tell him, and then this is the situation we're at, and we're here because actually I think what the president was emphasizing, to get away from all our plus and minus comments, is what can be done as far as helping our economy is concerned. Nakita nyo parang nililihis din niya yung pag-usapan niyan tungkol sa China. Hindi niya masyadong delved on it. As a matter of fact, sabi niya in so many ways na hindi to gagamitin against any other country and so forth. Parang yun na nga, he is aware that China is listening. So, ingat din siya na magsalita regarding that. But sabi nga ni Ado, bakit hindi pa niya kinlarify ito?
Mm.
But that is it. Hawak tayo ng 9 bases. Yun ang nakakatakot doon. Kaya natin, pag pinag-uusapan yan, para maintindihan ninyo, delikado ang sitwasyon.
Over lunch today, I was with Sas Rogando Sasso,
Mm.
and this is her book entitled A Lighthouse Before a Troubled Sea. And I quoted her in my opening statement today because this is what she said. In international relations, consent is sacrosanct, built on the principle of equal sovereignty of states. Without consent, a sovereign state cannot be made to do anything. At the end of the consent is, of course, the use of force. And this is what bothers me, because there are already talks, especially when it talks to Secretary Austin of Defense. For littoral defense, President Marcos Jr. is entertaining joint patrols with the United States, Japan, and even Australia in what he claims to be the Philippines EEC. Now, this is something that sends,
Shivers.
shivers to my skin,
Yeah.
because this is precise. When you combine that joint patrols with the earlier statement that the U.S. supports the ruling and has provided assistance for the Philippines to exercise its rights in the EEC, 1 + 1 equals war.
Mm.
A definite accident will happen. A definite accident will happen.
Yep, you're provoking.
Iraq
Mm.
will suddenly have weapons of mass destruction. Afghanistan and the Taliban would suddenly be hosting Osama bin Laden, which would, because nothing
Is
will trigger the Mutual Defense Treaty, nothing
Mm.
except
Except for
when we are fired upon.
yes.
When we are fired upon, or the United States is fired upon,
Mm.
that is the time the Mutual Defense Treaty comes into play. And what could be fired upon
Mm.
if it is not provoked?
Right.
In the
Correct.
Caroline Doctrine of the post-World War II
Mm.
discussions
Mm.
in Nuremberg, stocking of offensive weapons
Weapons.
alone
Mm.
could be construed
Mm.
and could be construed as offense
Mm.
and justified for preemptive
Strikes.
strikes.
Correct. Correct.
See? So if China sees that and
Mm.
strikes,
Mm.
then
It is justified.
the whole MDT is triggered.
Yep.
And there is a statement from China recently in the face of the Philippine Coast Guard bringing
Mm.
reporters to the South China Sea,
Do not use that.
that they will consider it as part of the U.S. fleet.
Wow.
So this is, Xi Jinping usually speaks in diplomatic tongue,
Mm.
but the Chinese this time is already defining
Mm. Mm.
what would be the red line in the South China Sea. And if this would be more than a drone flying over Kremlin, for which Russia is now prepared to engage in a nuclear war in that part of the Pacific, because I think that the red line over there has been crossed more than three times
Mm.
already.
Mm.
And so, right here, we may have our own
Right. Right. Right.
provocation that
The red
nobody
line actually is all over our coastlines,
Yes.
which they are planning to do this,
It,
this guarding, etc. and all.
it is a very, very precarious situation we're in. Very precarious. And again, look, I don't definitely President Bongbong is not stupid. He is educated. He knows history. He's very well attuned to what's happening.
Well, how would you read Itos? He was asked by the press if he would send troops in case of an engagement of China and the United States
Taiwan.
to Taiwan.
Mm.
And he said no. How would you read that?
No, no.
Sasurogando Sason used the word, how do you call that? I'll recall it later.
Anyway, so that's the situation we're at, and the meetings
sorry.
that our president
Oh, the
Junior
word
had.
is,
Yeah,
I think the president is conflicted.
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 That's a diplomatic answer.
Because parang umatras.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it because the US refused to give us free trade when asked, in addition to what we're getting for EDCA? The special trade representative of the US even required
Mm.
before asking, give me a list of what you can still export to the US before you ask for such privilege. What an insult.
It's very insult.
What
But
terrible,
like,
terrible.
like I said, like we said, look, honestly, si President Bongbong is not stupid. I'm just not seeing any real strategy moving forward. I don't see what his strategy
Let me prick your imagination,
is it appeasement? Because that never works.
Let me send the crossfire over to
Okay.
the other end.
Okay.
Do you think Bongbong Marcos is just exhausting Biden because his term is already ending? And after all, he gets rid of Biden, he will still be the president. And for the meantime, he has gotten all the arms for our so-called human assistance and
If
disaster relief
if
in terms of HIMARS rockets, Stingers, and Javelin missiles.
I don't even think they'll send that, if at all, right? But if that's a strategy they're playing,
I'm playing devil's advocate.
They will. That's a rhetorical
I go
question,
back to
but
my opening statement, gentlemen. He has delivered such outstandingly wonderful, beautiful speeches.
speeches.
He has
The best.
articulated it so well.
Mm.
The tone of his voice, everything, the oratorical cadences, and so forth. And I think 90% of which has flown over either the heads of the people who were listening there, the Americans, those heads of whatever, cruise ships, etc., and all of that. Lahat sila talagang humanga. And in fact, it was even noted they clapped and all this. As you said, Itos, this is a man who has studied well. He reads well. He has the reputation of a photographic memory. He writes his speeches. He delivers them exceptionally well. So I believe that he is doing that deliberately as not just motherhood statements, if you would
Okay.
call them, but even great-grandmother statements. So that because of the sapagkat napakainit ng issue, imbes na tirahin na lang yung gitna na sabihin na kaibigan naman namin talaga ang China at ang Amerika naman hawak namin sa isang kamay, instead of going directly like that, he talks about how important it is that what Biden said about an ironclad grasp of the Philippines, ay okay na yon, ang galing, etc. And he added on to that by saying, so talagang sinadya yung kanyang talumpati.
But
Para-
let me crossfire over to your side.
Okay.
Because definitely
Oh.
he has gotten an increase up to $100 million of arms from the United States to our military. On top of that, he has gotten 2 literal ships that the U.S. has decommissioned. And I think some cargo, some C-130s are coming. When it comes to defense, there are more. There are more coming. I am not discounting that, and I am not saying this in sarcasm or anything. I'm just telling the facts. He has done his homework here. But
But it all goes
what
down.
about the other side of the coin?
Yeah, but it
Is
also
this the national security? Is this his conception of national security? When he comes home, will those planes, will those ships be carrying relief goods and
because
ayudas
I would-
to our fledgling
when you-
Ano,
army?
I still believe that he's holding on to the provisions of the Mutual Defense Treaty.
Because-
Imposibleng magkagera ng ganong klaseng provision. Hihingi pa sila ng paumanhin. At,
It's not his.
yeah.
My ano is he's not in
Oo.
control.
yung
He-
EDCA,
He will not be able to control war moving forward. He will not be able to invoke anything.
Then I will set fire into that statement by saying that therefore I would move towards the abrogation not only of EDCA but also the Ballistic Forces Agreement
Agree.
and the
And the
Mutual Defense Treaty
Agree.
on the strength of Article 25
of the Constitution.
Section 25,
Yes.
Article 18 of the
Agree.
Constitution.
Agree.
So, that
Agree.
that goes back to exactly what I was saying. He had these beautiful speeches and very well delivered precisely because there are these nuances in the MDT and in the EDCA that do not correspond with what America wants to do. Kasi climate change, disaster, etc. Yun ang sasabihin niya later on pag sabihin ng Amerika na we want to attack China because hindi. Maghanap kayo ng disaster. sundan ninyo yon. See,
If
Yeah.
you want your vassal to attack your enemy, you'll give him a better gun. That's all it is.
yeah, but he
So they're arming us just enough to cause a certain conflict,
but
and
Itos,
then they come
yeah,
in.
they're arming
That's how
us
it is.
with
They're
used.
No, kaya nga, I'm saying just a
Oh,
better
you-
They're
gun.
providing a trigger.
Yes. They're providing us a better arm, and then we'll ganado tayo to use it.
Used and second
And
hand.
then,
I may agree with you because HIMARS is only good for 80 kilometers.
But
and
enough.
they fired it 6 times
Yeah.
and they failed to hit the stationary BRP
Yes.
Pangasinan.
But imagine they give that if they give that to somebody in a patrol boat, and he fires it accidentally or not.
Yeah.
It's a Chinese,
and hits a China.
and then now it's war declared,
Yes.
and then they're behind us and saying,
So that's why they missed, because it was deliberate that they should miss. So they will not have that accident. Here I am again,
Yes.
going back to all of these words. Anyway, let's now find out, as you said, Itos, you asked the question, is this all related in some way to how we can improve our economy, our agriculture, and so forth?
Mm.
Although the president in many of his speeches has mentioned that there will now be technological assistance, etc., and all of this that will help our sources of energy, that our
Mm.
agriculture, and all of this anyway. So,
yeah, well,
no, you're shaking your head.
yeah, it's hard because of the context in which this is all happening. This is not a time of peace. This is a time of war escalation, and the U.S. is stumbling and forcing people to go into war, including us. And China is moving to their defensive position so that the U.S. cannot, and they're just looking for a trigger. Remember, World War One was started by a trigger. It was just some assassination
in
of this guy,
Sarajevo. Yeah.
but everybody was ready.
Archduke
Archduke
Ferdinand.
Ferdinand by an anarchist daw. Pero handa na po lahat. The British organized all of these nations against Germany already. So all it had to do was provide a trigger.
Preemptive, yun na nga. So why does America have to go to war?
I think
De-dollarization. I'm telling you.
we started this by talking about speeches, words, and promises.
Okay.
I think what America is engaging in right now is delay.
Mm.
They have been supplying Ukraine. They have delivered.
Mm.
So they're asking now the European countries to fulfill their
End of the
their
deal.
end of the bargain.
Which they're not.
Which
And
they're
then-
not.
And then all of a sudden, you come up to a realization that insofar as javelin and
Mm.
how do you call that? That kind of a rocket launcher.
Mm.
It used to be called bazooka.
Mm.
They're behind in the production of this
Yes.
by 13 years.
Yeah. I agree.
And so on and so forth. And Germany too
They cannot.
cannot get into a war because it's also months
Yes. Behind.
behind. And so is did I mention
All the NATO
UK?
nations. Yes.
And then France.
Yes.
So they're all supplying Ukraine and they cannot engage in another war.
Mm.
While this is happening, China launches
Mm.
another successful Dongfeng 27 hypersonic missile.
Mm.
And this is capable of at least, it's an inter-regional ballistic missile that is armed with a horizontal hypersonic missile running at 5 times the speed of sound. It can reach Guam in 12 minutes
Oh my goodness.
from mainland China.
Before you hear it.
So while we are still finishing one sheet of paper here in my talking points,
Yes.
it's already exploding in Guam.
Yes.
And Guam is about 3,000 kilometers from Taiwan,
Correct.
from China. My goodness.
No, it's
What
It's a
can float within that radius that can come near to the coastline of China?
Mm.
I do not know.
Mm.
They also have the DF-17, the Dongfeng 17, which are ship killers. And so anything that floats
Mm.
will be annihilated.
So America knows this. Why does it still want to go to war with China?
Uh,
Knowing all of this
because that is
sophisticated.
the only
I think
livelihood that the U.S. is good at,
now, yes.
warfare.
Now.
Unfortunately,
I think President Bongbong should have asked Joe Biden.
Exactly. Yeah. Why do you want to go to war with China? That is why this massive disinformation against China
Mm.
is actually not being launched, but it's actually ongoing. You
Yes.
could have all of their anchors, reporters, etc. They open with the line that China is so bad,
Yes.
is so evil.
Here.
Yeah. Here
for,
and there and
for the
everywhere.
meantime,
Yeah.
for the meantime, Navy Times saying reports Beijing's February tests show the DF-21 covered 2,100 kilometers in just 12 minutes, and they have warned of longer DF ranges. It's the latest reminder that billions of dollars spent in a defense budget that keeps on growing, the US still trails China's progress developing cutting edge weaponry, raising uncomfortable question about how America would fare in a shooting war in the Pacific. Why?
Mm.
Because after rocky development and a recent failed test, the US Air Force has decided it will not go on to buy the hypersonic air-launched rapid response weapon.
Mm.
Air Force Acquisition Chief Andrew Hunter said in a written statement to the House Armed Services Tactical Air and Land Forces Subcommittee and submitted for a request for another 150 million for research and development. The US does not have the hypersonic capability in a war that will be highly fought, no longer by Salaknib, Balikatan, beach landings,
Yes.
and
No.
Douglas MacArthur,
No.
Masaulo
Yeah.
Homa type of Lingayen Gulf and Leyte, but a crossfire
Yeah.
of
Just
hypersonic
we
and
won't-
intercontinental
We
ballistic
won't
missiles.
even know it's coming. Nandito na siya.
until
Wala.
we're actually hit by it. Again, the question goes, if America knows that it cannot compete with such military warfare of the People's Republic of China, why is it instigating a war?
It's an information war to delay, to mislead, and not expose its own weaknesses. Fortunately, they are against China in this part of the world. And China's policy when it comes to warfare is active defense. It will not, one of its foreign policy is not to fire the first shot.
But it
Yeah, the
also,
Philippines will fire the first shot. The Philippines will fire the first shot because we are
we have 9 bases actually.
we are confident that our brother will defend us.
Oh
Okay.
yes, that's
Okay.
exactly what
That's
they
why
said.
we will
Yeah.
fire the
We
first
got
shot.
your back,
We
man.
got your back.
Okay,
Oh,
so
you might have misheard it. I heard it another way.
Mm.
We've got you, Batman. Batman.
we got you back. It's not we've got your back, but we got you back.
Oh, we got you back.
We missed the pronoun there, right?
Okay.
We got you back.
Whatever.
We got your back, man. But
Questions to
actually,
that,
it's, yeah.
questions.
Okay,
Let's
so
see how our listeners are participating. I cannot read this.
Again, I can say
it's in
again.
Japanese.
It's in Japanese.
Korean.
You want
It's
me to read
Korean.
out?
It's Korean. Yeah.
Korean name or Japanese name, not sure. Hello po sa inyong tatlo. Wala naman po talagang pledges. Salita lang yun. Anyolina Mutasarko. Good afternoon po from Bacolod City. Nixon Hitchhiker, listening from Taiwan. Wow. I guess that's Taiwan, no? TW.
Yeah.
Celia Roderos, we watching. Carl Villanueva, good Saturday morning po everybody and to all of our hosts. Great topic po. Alexis Neri, pera po ba ang taong bayan ginamit nila papuntang London at may may papapa ba ang Pilipinas sa kanilang pagpunta doon? Just
It-
asking lang po.
It's a
Yan.
private plane actually. It's not our charter. It's not
one
the
of the
Philippine
oligarchs'
Airlines.
planes.
Yeah, it's a chartered flight, private plane.
Santos Smart, prayer for Philippines. Yoch Malaw, prayer Philippines. Fernando Jose, nag-aalala si BBM sa aggressiveness na pinapakita ng Chinese sa West Philippine Sea. Kaya napatakbo sa US. Gulok Ilas. Good afternoon po sa inyo lahat. Later ako mag-listen po. Stay. Love, prayer. Algo, Fernando, mahirap talaga ang location ng Philippines if only we can defend ourselves like Israel. Amparo Consuelo, no matter what kind of quantity of weapons the US will deliver, it will never be enough to defend the Philippines. Alejandro Patagnan, Philippines start to fire is stupid thing to do. You wait. Because we're geniuses here.
Yeah.
Stormy Savvy, in 2022, President Bongbong during campaign says that if we allow US, it's a disaster. But now 2023, we have their bases. So I'm not sure during the campaign, what did President Bongbong say?
There were many
about
things that he said actually when he was senator. So we have to go back to all those meetings. We questioned, as a matter of fact, several items in the Visiting Forces Agreement. He questioned the EDCA quite, and also wanted to have a review of this. And then at some time, also there was the intention to review the Mutual Defense Treaty, which I think he also mentioned in one of those outstanding speeches that I keep talking about.
Right,
Anyway,
right.
so those are the reactions we're getting. The reason why we're bringing this up at this stage is precisely that. There is as Itos has said, we are in a precarious situation. And let us hope for the best that our President Jr. will be able to see through all of these different nuances that are being undertaken by countries around us. And of course, his recent meeting with the United States of America's officialdom, which, as we've said, has never really benefited us in a way that we intended it 100 years ago. So I'd like to thank my partners here, Itos Valdes, Paglinawan.
Oh, by the way,
Yes.
before you close, I would like to say that the country should not be desperate about the situation, because we have got your back. Yes. The Constitution has your back,
The Constitution has your back.
and you know what is that? That is called the spare tire. That is the Vice President. So we've got your back covered.
Yeah.
Well, let's go back to what Secretary Austin said. Oh, by the way, we also have to acknowledge and be grateful for the fact that this is the first time we've had a visiting head of state honored in such a manner. But of course, with 9 bases, the reception he was given, of course, at the Pentagon, the Secretary of Defense, wherever else he has gone to, and the other meetings that he had. Well, we also are grateful for that because it acknowledges also the importance of the country that he represents. And as we close, we got your back, man. So thank you for having joined us. This is Crossfire, and this is Rita Gadi.